Good afternoon and welcome to your monthly Citizen CPR Foundation Champions webinar. I'm your host, David Hiltz, and we have a great program lined up for you today. As you know, the mission of the Citizen CPR Foundation is to save lives from sudden cardiac arrest by stimulating effective community, professional, and citizen action. Through our community-based approach, the foundation intends to guide, empower, and enable communities to leverage the 6 key strategies at the local and regional levels. They are strengthening local stakeholder collaboration, encouraging data collection, analysis, and dissemination, the facilitation and implementation of life-saving strategies, the promotion of public education and training, the improvement in delivery of high-quality resuscitation and post-arrest care, and enhancing the impact of cardiac arrest therapies. We are grateful for your contributions to the resuscitation community and for joining us this afternoon. As your host and on behalf of the Citizen CPR Foundation, I would like to recognize and extend heartfelt thanks to our partner council for their ongoing and generous support. Without this support, programs such as this webcast would not be possible. Today, Sarah Lamb from Richmond Rescue will share a multiple dash cam video compilation that captures nearly every second of an arrest that occurred to a police chief during a high-speed pursuit, complete from the moment of cardiac arrest through the initiation of CPR, the deployment of his own AED by fellow officers, and the use of high-performance CPR by a rural EMS agency. This video provides a powerful and raw view into an unfolding cardiac arrest, highlighting the team efforts necessary for a positive outcome. This video was recognized with an award at the Cardiac Arrest Survival Summit held in San Diego this past December, and I'm certain that you will find it riveting. We will get to Sarah and the video in just a few moments. As a reminder, please mute your microphones and use the chat function to capture your questions during the webcast. These webinars are for you and your communities. As such, please provide us with your feedback. We ask that participants be respectful at all times and refrain from sharing negative or degrading comments, as well as specific product and service promotions. Any images of products appearing in these webinars are for discussion purposes only and do not represent endorsement by the Citizen CPR Foundation. I have a few important announcements for you today. I will get through those promptly. I would like to encourage all of you to participate in the monthly Resuscitation Academy and Heart Rescue calls that are hosted by Dr. Tom Ray. These occur on the third Thursday of every month at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Dr. Peter Kudenchuk will discuss the physiology and clinical pearls of defibrillation on this Thursday, June 16th, at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We would encourage anyone and everyone with interest in resuscitation science and implementation to tune in and participate in this and subsequent Resuscitation Academy calls as a matter of routine. Please look for a link specific to these monthly calls in your post-webinar email, which should go out later this evening. And then the long-awaited self-assessment and project tracking tool, as well as the challenging sudden death implementation and resource guide, are undergoing final edits and will be available later this week. The guide is chock full of evidence-based recommendations, best practices, innovations, and present interrelated action-oriented steps that you should all find useful. We will notify you when they become available on the Citizen CPR Foundation website, citizencpr.org. And now to the focus of our program today: first responder defibrillation, when the rescuer becomes the rescued. The rescue of Police Chief Al Buck. We are joined live by our guest and my dear friend, Sarah Lamb. Sarah is the training officer and paramedic with Richmond Rescue, a volunteer-based ambulance service and heart-safe community in Vermont. Sarah possesses a strong passion for improving survival rates. She helped roll out high-performance CPR to Vermont EMS, starting with her own agency as a pilot site where they had a dramatic improvement in survival despite their semi-rural location. Among her achievements, Sarah was the first CARES coordinator for the state of Vermont and was recognized as the Vermont Paramedic of the Year. She is a Citizen CPR Foundation 40 Under 40 Award recipient and an all-around awesome person. Let's turn the show over to Sarah. Sarah, it's all you.
Okay. Cool. So thank you guys for having me. So first off, no disclosures, not being paid by anyone to say any part of this. So I'm trying to get my mouse work. There you go. So I'm here because, as Dave mentioned, I was involved in a pretty dramatic case that occurred a few years ago, and it really taught us a lot about what we're doing well as a community in terms of our preparedness for out-of-hospital arrests and where we have a lot of room to grow. So just going to set a little bit of background for the case, just to kind of paint the picture of where we are and what type of community we are. So my agency, Richmond Rescue, is a small nonprofit volunteer ambulance service in northern Vermont. We cover about 200 square miles and a couple thousand people. We have about 40 active volunteers. We are a mostly volunteer organized agency. We don't have a lot of industry in our town, but we are where the little maple syrup packets, love ambulance services carry come from. And we have a lot of really cool community programs that we've been involved with, from bike helmet fittings for kids to a backcountry team and piloting the Ready Check Inject program for epinephrine in Vermont. But I think our biggest accomplishment was in 2014, we became a heart-safe community, and that was largely thanks to the great support of our town's police chief, Al Buck. And despite becoming a heart-safe community, we are the kind of community where we don't really see a lot of cardiac arrest. We see a lot of trauma from the highway and ski areas, but not a lot of medical calls. But despite that, as one of the 2 heart-safe communities in Vermont at the time, in 2016, I was able to go to the Resuscitation Academy, and we became one of the 4 pilot sites in Vermont for initiating high-performance CPR. And we trained and we really took it to heart. And then the Richmond Police Department are the other big players in this story. So they are a very small department with anywhere from 4 to 7 officers at a time. And Alan Buck was the chief from 2011 to pretty recently in 2019, I believe he retired. And Chief Buck was a fixture in Vermont law enforcement for decades. He had retired from the state police after 40 years, having been a barracks commander. So he's very well known in law enforcement. And without any further ado, play the video. So first, fair warning, there is some strong language in the video. My apologies as well. Some of the audio is really hard to hear, so there's some subtitles. And also the audio is a little, fluctuates a bit in terms of volume. So there are a couple points that may be very loud, but it will quiet down in a moment. That is, sorry, wrong button. Okay. So there's no audio for a minute. the white Toyota
Unreal.
Avalon is the suspect's vehicle. You can see in the top corner there is a speedometer. That ranges anywhere from 10 miles an hour, fast or slow. So if he's going 30, it may actually be as fast as 90.
Just threw a Coke or something out of his can, just below Southview. So, headed south on Huntington Road. He almost hit
Hey.
head on.
Chief is not in a low to the ground cruiser, he is in a big SUV right now. The clock at the bottom reset to 0 when he stepped on the brake. If you listen closely, you can hear agonal respiration in the background. This camera is a state trooper who is a little ways behind, and right in front of him is another Richmond officer.
To all units, he just turned, he's headed down West White Hill Road.
Unit 3, copy, turn down West White Hill Road.
That voice is a
Call for an ambulance. I think he had a heart attack.
206 Wilson, we need rescue here just by the Audubon Center, please. Looks like 511 might be having a medical.
Hey, Chief. Get the ambulance coming.
Okay, 10 4, copy, on the way.
Hey, Chief.
We need an ambulance down here.
Wilson, 206 West is inquiring. Give an updated location other than by Autobahn Center.
I'm trying.
I'm on West White Shore on the,
This time they thought he was having difficulty breathing.
10 4, 42. Wilson, do I have any units who have a vehicle in sight?
Need a vehicle with an AD down on Huntington Road.
So he moved his hands and kind of groaned.
We do have rescue headed. Do you have an updated 20? You're very 10-1. I have rescue headed to near the Autobahn Center for M511.
On West White Hill Road heading back towards Bolton.
10 4, 46.
So that is one of our town's fire chiefs.
10 4, 46. Very exciting.
Units on Route 2.
Responding for officer related.
Yeah, Wilson, I'm in Route 2 as well. I'm gonna stand by as Barbara Farm one.
Get the monitor ready. Have the med box and IO present.
Okay, so you have that plate on the bike.
Tell my dispatch from Richmond 1.
Rescue stoners, they've been updated.
Where's the name?
Up in other locations.
Radio. Can you confirm? Are they saying CPR or AED?
George, David, 372, so somebody Toyota Avalon. CPR is being, they need an AED, no AED on CPR.
Look, he should be behind his car. You can tell the officers there should be one in his car. Oh god.
So at this time, it did appear on the video, you can kind of slightly see his chest is rising and falling.
Okay guys, basically no matter what we transport, this is not a patient to leave behind. Like, it doesn't fit with the, like, there's no termination. Pull the fuck over!
Wilson 206, if you can copy, there should be an AED in M511 DQ. Wilson 206, if you can copy, or any unit with M511 and 206, there should be an AED in 511 DQ.
Whoever you can.
Duxbury Road towards Waterbury.
Very two.
Drive 06, please.
Middlesex has been advised. Wilson
Well, the first
242,
responder to
continuing at 20
destroy.
and speed.
So on Duxbury Road South, he's ahead of me, probably going 60 to 70.
That is the state search and rescue coordinator who happened to be driving
Put the
by.
lights on in the back. No, turn them on now.
10-4, copy 7-4, get it on.
Come on out, get pressure, get the pressure, get the pressure.
Get all the buckles unbuckled. Get the blanket off as well.
Are you secondary behind 242 right now? I know I'm going out with 12-6 right now. 39 South, second day.
Pull over! Oh my god.
There's our first shot with this AED.
Go, go. Faster, faster, faster. Come on. There you go.
So I'm still southbound on Duxbury Road. He's probably 8 1/4 mile ahead of me, going approximately 70 to 80.
That is the detective who was initially ran by the suspect.
42, still south of Duxbury Road. Vehicle's going 70 to 80 miles per hour. 8 mile ahead of you.
42 Middlesex is headed up. You're going to try to get to
Go deeper and faster. Here. You want to switch out?
2143 Wilson, I'm on road 2 in Richmond, we're at 511. I don't jump pursuing the vehicle anymore. 242 is on Duxbury Road South, heading towards Waterbury.
Can I plug in pads now and stuff?
Yes.
One of our members who just arrived.
511 with 206 on Huntington Road near the AutoZone.
AutoZone or Autobahn. AutoZone was up.
For Williston. We are on Main Road in Huntington. We are south of Sherman Hollow Road. The road's shut down. CPR is in progress. We need rescue here as soon as they can get here.
We're almost there.
I'll call him again.
Come on now.
that 43 on the AED.
10-4, we got the AED.
Move
all of it, take his glasses. When they get here.
Okay, ready?
All units, be advised, rescue is still en route. They're expediting.
Al!
Oh, so we just
Anyone on? Go ahead.
down Main Road, just south of Sherman Hollow Road. They have located the
Over anyone copies, thank you. We are almost at the scene.
Shot number 2.
Waterbury.
Medical center from Richmond Day 1. Medical center.
Al, buddy! Come on, Al! Come on! Come on! You got this! Come on, Al!
Medical center from Richmond Day 1.
But this time he did show a change in rhythm on the AD, and he did have a pulse.
CPR is in progress. We are about a minute out from the scene. I think you're right. No, it's on
Come on, Al.
Just past the scene.
Breathe, buddy. Come on, Al.
Come on!
Yep, yep, good.
You got it! Come on!
Good, let's go, Al.
Keep it up!
About the Autobahn second.
Come
Keep
on.
it up! Help is right here!
Good job, Al.
You
Let's
got
go.
it! Keep it going!
Yep, keep
Come on.
breathing.
Over in Richmond Day 1 out scene. So we're gonna get out and try to check her out. Move! 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 Move!
Keep it right there!
96-10-4.
2138 with the ambulance.
I think he had a heart attack.
Pretty road.
In the middle of the pursuit, getting hit in
42, you're cut off there, still southbound on the dirt end side of Duxbury Road. What road did you pass?
We're coming up on, we just passed Camel Pump Road, still southbound.
Sarge, get ready. Get run.
Okay.
Advance to them.
Yeah, get in front. We gotta get.
Southbound on River
Jesus,
Road
what's
right
going
now.
on?
Done.
10-4 southbound on River Road, you just passed Camel Pump Road.
Guys, give me a minute. I'll turn your angles around. Yeah.
Along some train tracks to my east.
Can you advise the vehicles drive around train tracks to your east?
Stand clear, everyone.
Beside some train tracks.
Clear, clear, clear.
Yep.
2 Winooski Street.
.42 Temple Works. Advise you're coming up on Winooski Street. We're past the Middlesex Channel. I don't think they've made it that far yet.
Keep following.
10-4. Red. Can I get update 20? I can't copy on Middlesex. 213. 213. They're coming up on Winooski Street right now. We're still on Duxbury Road southbound. 10-4. Wilson, 242. Do you have a location further up the road that you'd like Middlesex to set up at?
I can tell you right now is we're heading southbound on Duxbury Road, coming up on Winooski Street. Active pavement right now.
10-442.
100 here in a second. Near Crossroads Brook School, I believe. They're 80 to 90 miles an hour. How close to Winooski Street? I'm on Winooski now.
They're coming right up on it off Duxbury. Speed to 89 miles per hour.
Or I'm going to set up just at the Winooski Street bridge at the spike.
Clear, 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 clear.
10-4. They're coming up on you fast.
Docking. Go, go.
We're 15 minutes in, we just had our fourth shot. We've got an IO established as well.
On Winooski Street right now.
Is he coming back this way?
962, copy 242 is coming up on Winooski right now.
Oh, I missed it.
Put a car across the road.
So at this point, they thought the suspects were coming back towards us, so they put a civilian's car across the road to protect the scene.
Southbound on River Road.
10-4.
That's in Hart Road.
10-4. Southbound River Road, passing Hart Road.
Okay, 50 in the guardrail, kept going. Let me get my all-wheel drive. Local units 1. And I am. Reason for the pursuit?
Go, go, go.
Approaching the junction of 2 heading into the village.
Copy that, Mr. 10-4, junction Route 2 heading into Waterbury Village.
off the road, yeah. Ready? Sarah? Are you ready? Yeah. What? Yeah, Brad. I got you, okay? Highway, highway. Yep, thank you.
So 27 minutes from the onset of symptoms. You can see we're still doing compressions. You can kind of see through the pass-through window.
Come on, Chief. You can hear us? Open your eyes if you can hear me. Good job, Chief. Good job, Chief. You're doing good.
Brad, does he have a pulse?
Squeeze her hand as hard as you can, Chief. Squeeze her hand.
He does not have a pulse. He is still in VFib.
Off the interstate.
So to kind of finish up the part of that story, the suspects continued to flee. They actually discontinued the chase because they were driving so erratically, but they continued to drive like that, and people kept on pointing that out to the police officers. They finally ditched their car when it ran out of gas at a trailhead on one side of the tallest mountain in Vermont and hiked on foot. And later that night around 10 p.m., they were caught on the other side of the mountain by a couple of troopers and canine officers. So that is how that part of the story ended. I'm gonna hop out of PowerPoint because it'll let me open the chat. Does anyone have any questions?
There is one question, Sarah, that I can read to you. Daniel asks if you guys use IO as a route of choice, or do you usually try standard line first?
So at that point in time, our protocols were typically to go for an IO. Our protocols are now that we are going for an IV as our first line in cardiac arrest. So does anyone else have any questions about what happened in the video?
Tom Ray asks, does the chief recall his event? Did he have any symptoms?
So the chief recalled that as he was coming around that last corner, right after he radioed his location, and then he said he felt the walls closing in. And the next thing he remembered was waking up in the hospital. So we actually went and visited him a couple times. And so like over the weekend, and he had no memory of his first few days. So he didn't remember any of us coming to visit him. So I mean, that happened on Friday. On Sunday, he was complaining that they wouldn't let him walk around and he was ready to get back to work. So he had absolutely no deficits, no neurological injuries. He actually did go back to work very quickly. And then he retired a couple years ago. So I just saw a question about post-arrest analytics. I can't remember them off the top of my head. I can pull it up probably at the end. We do use compression feedback with our monitor. And so I know our compression fraction on this case was, I believe, 92%. That was with transport. I cannot remember the rest of the specifics. I know as a tendency, I think of all the analytics, we're pretty good on most of our metrics, but rates, I think we did have a couple periods of people going a little bit fast. So I can kind of sum up a bit of what we learned, and then I'll hop off the PowerPoint. So one of the biggest things that we learned is that people can move when they're dead. It's not just in the movies. And it was super disconcerting to us. So imagine as a layperson doing compressions and this happened, and we can see what happened. They kept stopping because they thought that they shouldn't be doing compressions. So we realized how important it is that we're teaching everyone, our rescuers and our laypersons, when we're teaching them CPR, to be aware that this could happen. And another big thing is that an AED is no good if no one can find it. So we created AED stickers that are now on the stickers of the cruisers and all of our local fire departments on their apparatus on the compartment door, wherever the AED is located. And also, we should try to get AEDs out to when and where they're needed the most. So we created a public access, a public AED loaner program. So people could check out AEDs and take them to events when and where most people are. Because in a rural community like ours, it's great to have them at locations like our town library, our town offices, the town market, but those are only open so often. And in a rural active outdoor community like ours, it's more often at things like this and bike races. We have a bunch of AEDs going out to a big race in a couple of weeks. So trying to get AEDs in the hands of the public when they're most likely to be able to be used. And we also really felt that celebrating success is so important, because so much of this is our approach and our mentality towards cardiac arrest in our community. When I started, I was taught no one lives. We're in the middle of nowhere, so you can do CPR for 20 minutes, you're gonna bring them to the hospital, and no one's gonna survive. And that's the mentality that I was taught with, and that we found that that is absolutely not true. And we like to try to celebrate all of our successes. So we made keychain bottle openers, and they're given to our rescue members, first responders, police officers, laypersons, bystanders, dispatchers, and the victims even, anytime that we get return of spontaneous circulation. And we did bottle openers in the hopes that they would be something tangible and not just, like a little something that might go on someone's shelf, but this is something that people could use and hopefully spark a conversation out in public. So we just try to celebrate little successes, and really just mindset is key. And we're training and training and training and trying to get as many people in our community and in our membership engaged. And just to kind of show just how powerful all of this high performance CPR, heart safe community has been for our community. In 2018, we had 9 cardiac arrests, that was our year as a pilot site for high performance CPR. And 9 cardiac arrests is a lot for us. And of those 9, 8 were non-traumatic, 7 were of cardiac etiology, and we had ROSC 8 times in the field. 3 were pronounced in the emergency department or the ICU, 2 of which were found to have had DNRs on file at the hospital. 1 was a successful multiple organ donor, and 4 of our 7 cardiac arrests were discharged with no neurological deficits, all in under a week. And that success didn't just end in 2018. We've continued to have a lot of successes and a lot of community engagement because of all of these. So that is what I have. I'm going to stop sharing here. So I saw a question about how our
Briefing.
Leo debriefed. So the state police had a after action review with all of the responding officers, and I was able to come to that. And there was a very large debrief on a lot of fronts for that case. There was a lot of stuff that came up for us and the law enforcement departments to review. One of the troopers who was on scene is actually one of the state police's CPR instructors. So this was a very powerful wake-up call for him, and he was actually Chief Buck was his first field training officer in the state police, as was he was also the detectives on scene. So this got a lot of buy-in from the state police to start some of those officers now. It's not at all in the state police's protocol in Vermont to respond to cardiac arrest with EMS. They don't correspond to anything other than law enforcement involved calls. But a lot of those officers are now, like those 2 troopers, they keep it on their screen, and they've come out and actually helped us with other resuscitations. So that has started to get a lot more engagement from the troopers and detectives on the road.
Yeah, bravo. You know, what an incredible story. And I thank you, Sarah. That was extraordinary. I've had the great fortune of being in a position of observation of this system and community for many years, essentially through all of the phases, and an incredible example of what is possible. And although, you know, maybe I misled you into believing that this was all about first responder defibrillation, I mean, I guess it is to a certain extent, but really what you saw was, you know, a system by design, a system that saves lives by design, not by accident, not a blind squirrel finding a nut. And, you know, I was fortunate enough that Sarah invited me to a recognition event for the chief. And I was struck not only by the story and everything else, but I will tell you that I was sitting with people from the highway department, the police department, the ambulance service, members of the community. I mean, and it was a wonderful time to celebrate, you know, not only the resuscitation of Chief Al Buck, but, you know, more indications of a system well built. So absolutely extraordinary. I imagine there should be some other questions. Let's take a look. How were they emotionally, though? Dan, maybe we could unmute Dan, and we can chat with him about his question about how were they emotionally. There he is.
That was actually my concern when I was asking about the debriefing. As you've noted before, have been invested for the last 20 years on the importance of debriefing citizen responders. Law enforcement officers are starting to be used more often, but are we paying attention to how they feel after the arrest emotionally?
So as far as I'm aware from talking to most of the officers that were there, and they're all good. That was obviously a really intense situation for a lot of them, especially to having been, you know, chief having been their FTOs when they're on the state police. I think they, knowing how it turned out, they all were really good. Initially, it did not look the most positive, and I think, and that was having talked to them that weekend, they were not handling it super well. But afterwards, I know that has just been, I think, just a really strong motivator for them to get other officers to get involved. And I think that's just made them more engaged. And
yeah, an interesting little comment by Dan, Sarah, if you would address it very quickly about kind of the odd circumstances around you and alerting folks to the presence of a defibrillator in the back of Al's SUV.
yeah, so I mean, that was one of the big ironies of that situation was, so that was on Friday, and on Wednesday, the police department had been in for their annual CPR refresher, and we checked in on their AEDs, made sure they were all in service. And after that, that was why we created the stickers that are now on their car, because when we looked at them, there were a lot of facilities or stickers you could buy that said, this facility is AED equipped, and it's a car, not a facility. And we found out there's that were like 15 bucks each. So we just decided to make our own and make a bunch of them so that we could also get them out to other communities at cost. So they're like $2. So do have some if anyone would like any. And they're gone all over the state, and we do have them on buildings, on businesses, on, like I said, on the fire department vehicles, on all the apparatus where the compartment door where the AED is, so that they would be very noticeable.
Yeah, there are so many really incredible sideline stories behind all of this that I wish we had time to cover today, because this is really like any town USA. I mean, it's very provocative to watch this for me, even though I've seen it before and I know the people and I like anticipate everything. Just absolutely riveting and moving. And Dan, you know, to your point, in May, we had Dr. Katie Dainty and my good friend Mark Forgas on to talk about a recent ILCOR scientific statement relating to lay responders. And I think we've got a great deal to learn and a great deal to do in regards to, you know, effective debriefing of people who are involved in the attempted rescue of fellow human beings. And so, you know, we've got a lot to learn and a lot to do. And that's the basis for these webinars. And so, Sarah, again, thank you. We're going to break into kind of our closing remarks here. Please be sure to share your feedback with us. And let's see if we can't wrap things up here for us today. Let's see here. If we can get the gods of technology to once again bless us. Let's see. Here we go. And we just come down here. All right. And so we've kind of had our closing remarks already. This is an excellent example of survival and what is possible in any community when you have a system in place. But this stuff doesn't come easy. You know, it's truly resuscitation as a team sport in so many different ways, right? Not only in providing effective, high quality resuscitation, not only does that require teamwork, but building your system of care for cardiac arrest is kind of the epitome, and at least in my opinion, of kind of teamwork. So, hey, quick note, next month, please join us when we will discuss the 8 Institute of Medicine strategies that are established at a national level to improve sudden cardiac arrest outcomes. And then, more importantly, how local strategies can support a minimum of 6 of these recommendations through regional implementation. So hope to see many of you next month at our next show. And then please, again, as we conclude our program this evening, please let us know how we can do better. We'd like to hear from you. These are for you and your communities. I am David Hiltz, signing off, and good night.